welcome into another edition of Quick Serve. I am straight off of my couch in my living room into the studio after having watched Novak Djokovic kind of dismantle Carlos Alcaraz. I think a lot of the talk around this is going to be, Novak being hurt and then being 100% later on. Curious to see what they say in press. I know Novak was going to kind of the Carlos ear to the crowd a little bit, which, listen, whenever athletes are trolling other athletes in the heat of the battle, I kind of like it. I kind of laugh about it. I know Carlos got up on a switchover and was kind of limping around. I don't know if that was, mocking Novak for saying like, I thought you were kind of compromised with your movement, something they were talking about a lot on the broadcast, and then was not compromised at all in the third of the four sets, was moving as well as I've seen Novak move in 18 months, maybe 2 years. So that will live. I'm sure that will have its own heartbeat in the postmortem of this match. What I am more confident in and have bigger opinions about is just the genius of Novak's strategy today, what he did well versus what I was yelling at the TV for as far as adjustments for Carlos. Not that they're not because there's any bias. You just want to see the best show and you want to see the problem solving in full flight. And I think Novak showed the reason why he's won 24 Grand Slams and seems well positioned to be right in the mix again for 25. It just is like this thing. 21 you can legally drink. This is just like we've moved on to like casual cocktails. We're not even excited about drinking anymore. 25. So the couple of things that Novak was a genius at today, and we're going to get to Sabalenka beating Pavlyuchenkova. Badosa, biggest upset of the day, I would say, over Coco. Zverev takes out Tommy Paul in 4 sets. We'll quickly get to those at the end, but I think the match of the day, obviously, for the legends involved and the hype reasons and everything else, was Novak and Chucky Alcaraz. But what Novak was able to do, and I couldn't figure out why Alcaraz didn't switch his return position on second serves earlier in the match, right? Novak was able to go big on second serves, which he had to. For a while, it looked like he was trying to shorten the points. When he broke early in the second set, he hit 3 winners, kind of just cold cock winners off of returns. At that point, you felt like he was making that adjustment because he was physically compromised, right? What he was also doing was going massive on the second serve, right? And not hitting a lot of those little bunny kicks, giving Carlos a canvas. When he has time, he becomes an artist, right? When he doesn't have time, it's a little bit more rushed. It's like telling an artist, you have to finish this painting in 30 minutes. And then that's probably not the best version of what they're going to do. So when someone is going big on the second serve, normally if they're pulling it off, which Novak was, he had like 1 double fault through 4 sets and he was going massive. So his second serve won him this match, no doubt. What it does is twofold. Carlos Alcaraz, if he's in, all of a sudden he's hitting pinched returns, right? Novak's running it in on his body, running him out on the forehand, where even if he hits a good return and times it up, that first ball, Novak's shot tolerance is otherworldly. Best there's ever been in tennis. Novak was checking that ball down quickly, deep middle, and then all of a sudden, Carlos couldn't create that set of angles, right? It wasn't sideline to sideline. Novak was just drilling middle flat over and over again and daring Carlos to take chances from the middle of the court, where it's not as easy to create angles, especially when the ball flight is lower, right? When it's at your waist or even below it, it's tough to push to the corners, especially with someone who covers the court as well as Novak. The other thing that I thought Carlos maybe missed, he was on it early, was Novak was cutting the corner during the rallies. Whenever Carlos tried to bleed him to the forehand side, Novak was cutting it off and going big middle. Right, I thought there was some space for Carlos to set the table line with that heavy one and then maybe take his shot to the forehand. But Novak did an unbelievable job of pinching Carlos on second serve returns over and over and over and over and over again and winning free points on it. Carlos finally drifts back at, I think Novak was serving 4-3 up in the 4th set and got a couple of looks at break points. Did it again in the last game and got a couple of shots where he was actually in it. If Carlos drifts back, one thing he can do, you can't create height and spin when you're inside the court, right? You have to block it down. It's not as if you go in there and you're playing loopers. If Carlos checks back 3 or 4 feet tonight, all of a sudden he can create height, line, or cross. And that second ball, he's not pinched on top of the baseline in the middle, kind of playing up to Novak. So I was confused for 3 hours as to why that adjustment wasn't made beforehand. I was texting our friend James Blake, who is sitting courtside. Is like, am I taking crazy pills? Is there something, that you're seeing that I'm not? And he said, not really. I haven't heard a lot of banter between JCF and Carlos about the return position. And listen, if Novak, he wants to run that second serve in on you, right? He wants to get it to where you're all of a sudden sawed off, and then he has complete control of the middle of the court. Right. And he's not above here, and he's not extended to the sidelines. As he gets older, he wants to mess with those sidelines less and less. He wants to keep it all tight, and he is so good at firming up the ball, keeping it down to where you can't create that space sideline to sideline. And he did it over and over and over again. The X's and O's to me were a masterclass from Novak today. He knows what he is in this current version of himself. The rallies were going Carlos's way early in this match, right? That big heavy ball, and Novak saw it, adjusted. He did not kind of loop any more forehands the rest of the day. They were all flat through the center of the court, and said, listen, Carlos, if you're going to beat me, you're going to have to create some magic from below your waist and from the middle of the court. And Carlos wasn't able to do that more often than not. Techie Sean, this week we have discussed what I consider, the telltale thing for most matches. And I don't know if you have a mic in front of you, but what is the thing that is, it's basically like a cheat code of looking at a stat sheet and then telling who would win the match is what?
Defending second serves.
Novak, 58% second serve points won. Carlos, 33% second serves won today. Even though Carlos served a higher percentage of first serves, they were both above the mark that I set, the high water mark of 62, 63%. But Novak was getting so many cheap points on his second serve where it was brilliant. He was up around above 180K every time, but he got a lot of freebies. And if he's getting freebies, it's just a matter of when he locks down. Man, it was vintage in that fourth set on the big points where you just knew he wasn't going to miss. And lockdown mode, Novak gets overused sometimes. We kind of stretch for it. But especially when it gets tight, it's so amazing how he's able to pick and choose his spots where when he's down, he'll serve and volley way more. Rarely serves and volleys when he's up. When the chips are down and it's a break point, he's not going to beat himself. Someone's going to have to come up with something and create something from the middle of the court. But Chucky Alcaraz, if we're taking positives out of this, I thought his serve was a lot better. I didn't like the strategy after the serve. I feel like he had to kind of almost have a two-shot pattern more than just getting to it and trying to win the point on a big forehand. I would have liked to see him set the deck to one spot and then use the space created by the first setup. But Novak was amazing. It for all of us, it looked like he was down and out. After the first set, you're going, okay, is this going to get a little weird? He breaks on those, it almost looked like throwaway returns. And then all of a sudden he found his motor again. And the hip groin seemed to bother him less as it went on. I didn't often work that way in my career. If I pulled a groin, it kind of tended to stay pulled and maybe get worse. Novak, it just knows how to pace himself in these matches, right? He just knows the feelings of a match, when to push, when to hold back, but all the while, master of ball flight, master of direction, even when that direction isn't switching sides, right? The direction is flat middle, and you're going to have to create from there. He took away the artist paintbrush, simply. He got him into a hold. Carlos wants to dance. He wants to move around the ring, and he got him into where he was holding a bunch and then just looking for his punch. So props to Novak. I can't wait to watch this match with Zverev. Novak is in this to win this. This is as good as he's looked in a major. And I know he made the Wimbledon final last year on one leg, which is his own, sort of sorcery. This is as good as he's looked in a maybe since he won the U.S. Open at the end of 23 in a Grand Slam. He is here to win this thing. And if you think about the 3-match loop into this, Mahach 1-4-4. Mahach is going to be a top 10 player at some point. Lehechka 3, 4, and 6. Lehechka is going to be a top 10 player at some point. Carlos Alcaraz is going to be a top 10 player of all time. He's on that trajectory and 4 sets and kind of controlled the match as far as pacing, points, stylistically in the last 3 sets. It was a vintage Novak performance. Bravo. A lot of the conversation is going to be about stuff that doesn't really matter to the X's and O's too much. It's just more about feelings and, am I offended by you? Are you offended by me? You did this, I did this, stuff we'll never know the answers to. So seem to care less, a little bit less about that. But the X's and O's I thought were a masterclass by Novak. And I thought there was something left on the table as far as adjustments for Carlos in this match. Sabalenka getting through tough ones again. It seemed the book on her, and I'm a broken record on the show about her, 6 or 7 years ago was, if she's good, watch out. If she's having an off day, maybe not like the problem solver, maybe not the person that's going to get through. And I think that was largely true, but it's also nice to see when champions turn narratives on their heads. Saba has not looked great outside of the Andreeva match. I was saying going in, I loved Pavlyuchenkova's form. She is actually strong enough to hang with Sabalenka. But Sabalenka gets through in a tight 3-setter. Now playing her good friend, Paula Badosa. I think we were all looking at the Coco match and thinking that Coco looked great. Badosa just took her forehand from the middle of the court and owned Coco going to that forehand side. What I want to see from Coco is some of defense on the forehand, high and deep to the backhand to reset. It seemed like it was all middle of the court today to Badosa's forehand. But props to her. Again, was outside the top 130 going into Wimbledon last year. And now here she is, 12 in the world, gets every single point from this Australian Open because remember, she didn't play much in the first 4 months of last year. So this is all house's money as far as the rankings goes. You're going to see her shoot up the rankings. She'll be top 5 before you know it, which is amazing to go from 2 all the way down to whatever the hell she was, close to 200 in the world, and then back up to the top 5. I don't know that I saw this return to the top 5. I certainly didn't see it this quickly. Props, respect to Paula Badosa. Alex Zverev, tough Tommy Paul out. Won a couple of breakers as the match got extended, seemed to create some space. We will cover maybe a preview when I have some time to breathe with Zverev and Novak coming in there. We got Sinner, Chicken Dinner coming later on, like him against the Demon. Ben Shelton coming up, I guess, tonight in America. Sorry, hard to keep up. They're 2 days ahead. How the hell you expect me to know what's happening when? I know, set the alarm for this one, and it didn't disappoint. Listen, Carlos started out hot, and Novak literally just pulled him back towards him with X's and O's and strategy and all the guile that you can muster. And I don't know how else we address 37 years old and doing this. So let's put this for context. Gail breaks the record last week for oldest person to ever win an ATP title. Amazing story. Amazing accomplishment. Not 3 out of 5 sets over the course of 2 weeks. Novak 37, taking out 21-year-old, already all-time great Carlos Alcaraz, looking motivated. He pulls off this slam win at 37 years old. I don't know, man. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him at this point. He was he moved the chess pieces perfectly today and still has the game to match up with his mind. Props to them. I'm sure everyone's going to ask about the Andy Murray situation. Listen, there's 5 people on earth who Novak can respect their opinion. One of them sits next to him now, next to that court. I don't know how much of an impact it made. I said before the tournament started, if Novak goes well, Andy's going to get too much credit. If he goes badly, he's going to get too much blame. Believe it or not, Novak has always known how to play tennis, but these are the types of matches where you want someone to look at who understands exactly what you're going through. I don't think there was any downside with this matchup. They know each other, they respect each other, and now finally they can probably be honest with each other as far as what they're feeling. Novak looked great. Moving on. Thank you for watching Quick Serve.